Hello students, welcome you all back to my channel Hans Commerce Tutorial. After uploading the subjects Financial Management, Investment Management, Advanced Accounting, Business Statistics, now I am starting the new subject Corporate Accounting. It gives me great pleasure in expressing my feeling. What I got from the last 4 subjects, I got overwhelming response, views from my viewers. So it gives me more and more enthusiasm to give much more in the subjects of accounting, finance. So students like my way of teaching, methodology, and explaining the different concepts of the accounting and finance subjects. So I'm planning to give much more subjects in accounting and finance. So I'm very much thankful to the viewers that they like my channel, they like my subjects, they like my way of teaching. Keep watching, but one thing you have to remember, don't ignore my theory videos. The theoretical concepts are very important in order to understand the problems. So normally what I feel, students they will ignore the theory, they will directly go to the problems videos. No, first of all you watch the complete theoretical part, you can understand the concepts. Till end you watch my theoretical videos, then you can enjoy, you can understand better the problems. And while watching the problem, before watching the problem, first I again suggest you to take a printout of the problems which I am providing in the description link. A link is there in the description. In that link you will find all the problems. Take a printout of the problems and keep it ready before watching my problems videos, so that you can be able to understand the problem solution explanation. You can get a good grasp on the subject. That's my expectation from the viewers. So if you want maximum, just follow my instructions. Definitely you can get the maximum benefit from my videos. So now I'm going to start the new topic, corporate accounting, because there is a much pressure from the students to start this subject. So now I am starting the new subject, corporate accounting. So under corporate accounting, the topic which I have chosen now is liquidation of companies. So in this video I'll completely explain what do you mean by liquidation and what are the statements we have to prepare under liquidation. All these things we'll discuss in this video. From next video onwards we'll solve the problems on liquidation of companies. Come on, we'll start the subject. Liquidation means winding up, closing up the business. A joint stock company has a procedure how to form the company and how to liquidate the company. Unlike the sole trading concerns, we can start our own business at any time, we can wind up our business at our will. It is not like that in joint stock companies. There's a Companies Act. In that Companies Act, a procedure is given how to incorporate a company, how to form a company, and a procedure is there how to wind up the company. So in this topic we are going to study the procedure given by the Companies Act regarding the winding up of a company. So liquidation of companies meaning is the winding up of the joint stock company's business. Settle all the accounts, close the business. That is called liquidation of companies. Now I am coming to the methods of winding up. So broadly the Companies Act provisions have been given that there are 2 methods of winding up of a company. The first one is compulsory winding up by the tribunal, by the court. Secondly, voluntary winding up by the members or the creditors. These 2 are the methods through which a company's business will come to an end. A company will be wound up. Now, first we'll discuss what are the cases when there is a compulsory winding up order from the tribunal. So when the tribunal will give the order that this company should be wound up, should be closed. So under certain circumstances are there. What are the cases in which the company may be wound up compulsorily by the order of the tribunal? First one is unable to pay the debt. Unable to pay the debt. If the tribunal feels that the company is becoming insolvent, the company cannot be able to pay the debts to the creditors, then it's a case when the tribunal can pass a compulsory order, an order to compulsory wind up the company. First case. Second, special resolution to wind up. Sometimes a company will pass a special resolution asking the tribunal to give the order for compulsory winding up. Second case. Third case, default in filing its financial statements. Every joint stock company must file the annual returns, required reports to the registrar of companies. If the company fails to submit the financial statements to the registrar of companies in 5 consecutive, immediately preceding 5 years, then the tribunal may order that the company must be wound up. Next one, just on equitable grounds. It's a wide power given by the Companies Act to the tribunal. So if the tribunal feels that this company must be wound up on account of just and fair equitable grounds, it is not beneficial to run the company. So on fair and equitable grounds, the tribunal will ask the company to wind up its activities. Last one, misfeasance or misconduct. If there is an application from the registrar or an authorized person to the tribunal that the affairs of the company are conducted improperly, or there is a misfeasance or there is a misconduct in the company, then the tribunal may pass the order to compulsory wind up the company. So these are the cases, some of the cases where the tribunal will pass an order to compulsory wind up the company. Next one is voluntary winding up. Voluntary winding up may be done either by the members or by the creditors. Voluntary winding up, ordinary resolution. First case of voluntary winding up is by passing an ordinary resolution by the company. When the ordinary resolution will be passed, suppose in the memorandum of association some duration is specified, that this company will be up to so and so date, up to so and so years, and the period has expired. So after expiry of the period, the company will pass an ordinary resolution and the company can be liquidated. Similarly, happening of an event. If in the memorandum of association one event has been specified, that on the happening of that event the company should be wound up and that event had occurred, then the company must pass an ordinary resolution to wind up the company. Second, by special resolution. Sometimes a special resolution is required to wind up the company. This special resolution will be passed by the members, winding up by the members, or voluntary winding up by the creditors. This requires a special resolution. Now, whatever may be the method of winding up of the company, some documents have to be prepared, some statements have to be prepared. The first statement which is prepared at the time of winding up of the company is Statement of Affairs. Statement of Affairs is a statement which should be prepared by the director, secretary, or an authorized person, chief officer of the company. He has to make out and submit this Statement of Affairs within 21 days from the date of winding up order to the liquidator of the company. So who is the liquidator? The person appointed to liquidate the company. If the liquidation is through the compulsory order of the court, tribunal, then official liquidator attached to the high court. Or if it's a voluntary winding up, then the liquidator will be appointed by the members company or the creditors. So the person who is appointed to liquidate the activity is called liquidator. The Statement of Affairs is a statement which should be prepared by the board of directors or secretary or chief officer of the company and make out and submit to the liquidator within 21 days from the date of winding up order. And this period of 21 days can be extended either by the court or the official liquidator attached to the court. It may be extended up to 3 months. But normally it should be prepared and submitted within 21 days from the date of winding up order. On the basis of this Statement of Affairs only, the company will start, the liquidator will start the winding up procedure. So what this Statement of Affairs will contain? The Statement of Affairs should contain the assets available, the realizable value of all the assets which are not pledged and which are pledged. All the assets should be specified, and what are the liabilities payable. The liabilities may be differentiated between preferential creditors, then unsecured creditors, then secured creditors, debenture holders. All these liabilities should be specified. And how much is the surplus or deficiency remaining? Then capital to be returned to preferential capital, equity share capital, and how much money is available and how much money is required to be paid. All these things should be specified in the statement of affairs. The statement of affairs normally consists of lists. The items which are, the provisions which I am telling now are according to the provisions of Companies Act 2013. So Companies Act has specified that totally A to H. List A to list H should be specified in the statement of affairs. List A. The list A should consist of assets not specifically pledged. Two types of assets are there, unpledged and pledged. Unpledged ka matlab there is no charge at all, freely available with the company. There is no charge on the assets. And pledged assets means the assets will have a charge in favor of a creditor. The assets which are given as security to some of the creditors that are pledged. So we have to divide. List A will contain all the assets which are not specifically pledged. Then list B, assets which are given as security or assets specifically pledged. Those assets which are provided as security to the creditors, those are called assets specifically pledged. List B. List C are preferential creditors. I'll explain you after completing this H what are preferential creditors. Then list D, debenture holders having a floating charge on all the assets of the company. List E, unsecured creditors. List F, paid up preference share capital. List G, paid up equity share capital. List H, estimated surplus or deficiency as regards contributories. So these are the lists which are to be shown in the statement of affairs. In the problem, I'll explain you the procedure of showing all these lists in the statement of affairs. Now, preferential creditors. And one thing you remember, the statement of affairs will not be prepared by the liquidator. The statement of affairs should be prepared by the company, by the directors, by the secretary. They have to prepare this statement of affairs and submit it to the liquidator. The liquidator will start his job only after getting this statement of affairs. Only on the basis of this statement of affairs, the liquidator will start his job, his activities. Now, list A, list B, I have already explained you. List C are preferential creditors. Now see here, preferential creditors are unsecured creditors. There is no security given to preferential creditors. Then why the name preferential is given? According to Companies Act will say that there are some creditors who should be paid before any payment made to other creditors. दूसरे क्रेडिटर्स को देने से पहले ये लोगों के पास प्रेफरेंशियल राइट है. कौन दिया राइट? ये कंपनीज एक्ट दिया है. So the creditors which are given preferential right by the Companies Act that they should be paid the amount before any amount is paid to unsecured creditors. These are called preferential. And the examples of preferential creditors are any taxes. First one, all the revenue and taxes and rates. All revenues, taxes, rates due to the government within a period of 12 months. Within the period that has arisen within 12 months from the date of winding up of the company. यानी कंपनी का जो डेट ऑफ वाइंडिंग अप है उससे पहले के 12 महीने के अंदर जो ड्यू हो गया, that amount of taxes or rates or duties which are payable to the government is a preferential creditor. First one. Second one, all wages or salaries due to the employees for the services rendered. All the wages and salaries which are due to the employees for the services rendered to the company not exceeding 4 months. Not exceeding 4 months salaries within the 12 months period from the date of winding up of the company. कंपनी के वाइंडिंग अप डेट से पहले के 12 महीने के अंदर 4 महीने की मैक्सिमम 4 महीने की सैलरी. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ एन एम्प्लॉय सैलरी इज ड्यू फॉर 6 months before winding up date, 6 months salary is due to the employee. Then Companies Act says 4 months salary, maximum 4 months salary is preferential. तो 6 महीने की सैलरी में से 4 महीने की सैलरी प्रेफरेंशियल है, पहले पे करेंगे, 2 महीने की सैलरी को अनसिक्योर्ड में लेंगे, अनसिक्योर्ड क्रेडिटर, राइट। अगर कोई एम्प्लॉय की प्रीवियस मंथ्स की सैलरी 3 मंथ्स की ड्यू है तो पूरे 3 मंथ्स की ड्यू सैलरी प्रेफरेंशियल क्रेडिटर्स। बट देयर इज अ लिमिट आल्सो, नॉट ओनली द पीरियड but also not exceeding the maximum amount of the prescribed limit. Presently the prescribed limit is 20,000 rupees per claimant, not more than 20,000. 4 महीने की सैलरी या 20,000, whichever is higher, that will be preferential. Next is all accrued holiday remuneration being payable to an employee on account of winding up. If any holiday remuneration has to be paid to the employees at the time of winding up, that holiday remuneration to the employee is also a preferential creditors. Next one is any contribution payable within 12 months from the employee state insurance. If employee state insurance fund is maintained by the company and employee has to be paid within 12 months before the date of winding up, within 12 months, the amount payable under ESI, employee state insurance, that is also a preferential. Next one is any sums payable under Workmen Compensation Act. Workmen Compensation Act में अगर कोई वर्कर को compensation pay करना है, that compensation is also a preferential. Similarly, any amount payable to the employee under Provident Fund scheme or Gratuity Fund scheme, these amounts are also preferential. So preferential creditors are those creditors which must be paid before any amount is paid to unsecured creditor. And these preferential creditors should be specified in list C. List C. Now liquidator final statement of account. Now see here. First of all, the statement of affairs will be prepared by the company and submitted to the liquidator. The liquidator will start his proceedings. What is the job of the liquidator? Liquidator's job is to realize all the assets, to sell all the assets and realize the cash. कंपनी के जितने भी assets हैं वो assets को बेचना, बेचकर पैसा realize करना, realize करके वो पैसे से settlement करना. Settlement करने का मतलब the creditors must be paid, all the creditors must be paid, liquidator remuneration, liquidation expenses, everything should be paid according to the order given by the Companies Act. Companies Act has given the procedure, who should be paid first, who should be paid next. He has to follow, liquidator has to follow that procedure. He has to make all the payments. Payments करने के बाद जो पैसे बचेंगे वो shareholders को जाएंगे, shareholders को pay करेंगे. So the job of the liquidator is to sell away all the assets, realize the cash and make the payments to the creditors. So after settling all the accounts, पूरे accounts settle करने के बाद, सबको पैसे pay करने के बाद, the liquidator will make a statement called liquidator's final statement of account. This liquidator's final statement of account will be prepared by the liquidator after completing the liquidation, after settling all the accounts. So many problems we have to do on this liquidator's final statement of account. For starting first two problems, few problems we'll do on statement of affairs, how to make the statement of affairs and how to make the liquidator's final statement of account. These are the two types of problems we are going to solve in this liquidation companies, right? So this is all about liquidators, and liquidator's final statement of account is just like a cash book. In cash book, we'll have two sides, receipts and payments. Cash inflows, cash outflows. Receipts of cash left side, payments of cash right side. Same way we will make liquidator's final statement of account. It's just like receipts and payments account. Debit side, we will record all the cash received through sale of assets. Sale of assets. Similarly, payment side. Payment side will record all the payments made by the liquidator. Like liquidator remuneration is there, liquidation expense are there, preferential creditors are there, unsecured creditors are there, unsecured creditors are there. Debenture holders having a floating charge is there. Then amount repaid to preference shareholders, to equity shareholders. All this payment will be taken on the payment side, right hand side. That is about liquidator's final statement of account. Points to be noted while preparing liquidator's final statement of account. While making this liquidator's final statement of account, some points the liquidator has to follow. Some procedure he has to follow. The first is order of payment. Order of payment. It is not at the will of the liquidator. Liquidator की मर्जी पे नहीं है, जिसको चाहे जिसको जितना दे पे कर दे, नहीं. Some order is given by the Companies Act. So every liquidator must follow the order of making the payments. The order will be given as first one liquidator's remuneration, second liquidation expenses, then preferential creditors, then debentures having a floating charge on all the assets, then unsecured creditors. After unsecured creditors, we have to take preferential capital, equity share capital. So in that procedure, he has to make the payment, order of payment. Now payment, what will happen? The company may be solvent or the company may be insolvent. कंपनी सॉल्वेंट भी हो सकती, कंपनी इंसॉल्वेंट भी हो सकती. अगर सॉल्वेंट कंपनी हो गई, सॉल्वेंट कंपनी मींस द कंपनी व्हिच कैन बी एबल टू पे टू ऑल द क्रेडिटर्स इंक्लूडिंग अनसेक्योर्ड क्रेडिटर. Insolvent company means when the company is not in a position to make full payment to unsecured creditors. Then we have payment to secured creditors. Secured creditors means the creditors to whom we have given some security. Secured creditors में दो टाइप के होते हैं, fully secured, partly secured. Fully secured creditors means when the loan amount is less than the security provided. For example, the company is having a bank loan of 5 lakh rupees and the company has deposited the papers of the building. The building was mortgaged, pledged with the bank. Now the value of the building is 8 lakh rupees. If the building is sold, it will fetch 8 lakh rupees and the amount due to the bank is 5 lakh. So it is called fully secured. Fully secured creditor. इसका opposite partly secured creditor. Suppose if the loan taken is 8 lakh rupees but the security provided is only 5 lakh. Only 5 lakh. It is called partly secured creditor. तो अगर fully secured creditor रहा तो क्या होगा? It may happen like this. We have already given the papers of the property to the bank. The banker will sell away the property for 8 lakh rupees, take its own money of 5 lakh rupees and remaining 3 lakh rupees will be returned to the liquidator. Surplus received from fully secured creditors. That will be taken on the debit side of liquidator's final statement of account. तो ये बिल्डिंग को बैंक बेच दिया, अपने 5 लाख रुपए निकाल दिया और रिमेनिंग 3 लाख रुपीस वापस कर दिया लिक्विडेटर को, सरप्लस रिसीव्ड. अगर पार्टली सिक्योर्ड क्रेडिटर्स अगर है, बैंक को पे करना 8 लाख रुपीस और सिक्योरिटी सोल्ड हुआ 5 lakh rupees. In that case, what will do? The security is realized 5 lakh. Bank has taken 5 lakh rupees. Remaining 3 lakh rupees which we have to pay to the bank will be taken under unsecured creditors. These two cases may arise. For fully secured, the liquidator will get surplus. For partly secured, the liquidator has to transfer the remaining amount to unsecured creditors. Then liquidator's remuneration. Actually, liquidator will be paid remuneration. If the liquidator is appointed by the tribunal, compulsory winding up by the tribunal, then the tribunal will fix the remuneration of the liquidator. But if the liquidator is appointed by the company, voluntary winding up, then the company will decide the remuneration to the liquidator. Normally, liquidator's remuneration is based on percentage on assets realized and percentage on amount distributed among unsecured creditors. Normally, दो percentages होती हैं, एक percentage of commission paid on amount realized and percentage of commission paid on amount paid to unsecured creditors. So, how to calculate remuneration? While doing the problem, I'll explain you. If the company is solvent, if the company is insolvent, how to calculate liquidator's remuneration. So in these problems, the main complication or the main calculations which you require is liquidator's remuneration. Next comes debenture interest. See here, at the time of winding up, if any debenture interest is due, it will be paid up to the date of winding up. Up to the date of winding up if the company is insolvent. अगर कंपनी इंसॉल्वेंट अगर है तो इंटरेस्ट आउटस्टैंडिंग ऑन डिबेंचर विल बी पेड अप टू द डेट ऑफ वाइंडिंग अप. बट इफ द कंपनी इज सॉल्वेंट, then the interest will be paid not up to the date of winding up but up to the date of payment. For example, the winding up order was passed on 30th September. 30th September is the date of winding up order. And the payment of all the parties was done on 31st December. The payment was made to all the parties, debenture holders on 31st December. तो वाइंडिंग अप हो गया 30th सितंबर को, पेमेंट हो रहा 31st दिसंबर को, तो सितंबर के बाद अक्टूबर नवंबर दिसंबर 3 महीने के बाद 3 मंथ्स हुआ है. तो अगर कंपनी सॉल्वेंट अगर है तो वो 3 मंथ्स का इंटरेस्ट भी पे करना पड़ेगा डिबेंचर होल्डर्स को. अगर कंपनी इंसॉल्वेंट अगर है तो इंटरेस्ट विल बी पेड ओनली अप टू द डेट ऑफ वाइंडिंग अप, not up to the date of payment. Interest will be paid up to 30th September. That point we have to remember while taking debenture interest. Now, dividend to preference shareholders. Preference shares are of two types: cumulative, non-cumulative. Cumulative, non-cumulative. First of all, what we'll do is, up to unsecured creditors will make the payment. After paying to unsecured creditors, if any amount is left, then it will be paid to preference shareholders. Preference shareholders. Otherwise, if the amount is exhausted at unsecured creditor itself, there is no question of payment to preference shareholders. Unsecured creditors को देने के लिए ही पूरा पैसा नहीं है, तो फिर preference shareholders को कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा. हाँ, अगर देने के बाद अगर पैसा बच रहा है तो preference share capital पे करेंगे. अगर preference dividend अगर arrears में है, cumulative preference shares are there. In cumulative preference share, the arrears of dividend will accumulate. Now, at the time of winding up, there is a question whether arrears of preference dividend will be paid or not. Now, we have to see the provisions. Generally, what will happen? The arrears of preference dividend will be paid only after returning equity share capital. Next comes call on contributories. The contributories are the shareholders. At the time of winding up of the company, the shareholders are called contributories. Why they are called contributories? Because they have to contribute to the assets of the company at the time of winding up. If there is a need, then how the shareholders will have to pay at the time of winding up if there is uncalled or unpaid amount on the shares. If there is unpaid amount on the shares, example, the face value of the share is 10 rupees, but the company has called up only 8 rupees. 2 rupees are uncalled amount. The company has not yet called up. Uncalled amount 2 rupees. Now the company has been wound up. The company has to pay a huge amount to the unsecured creditors. The company does not have funds. Then the liquidator will make a call of 2 rupees to the shareholders. Now the shareholders have to contribute to the assets of the company because they have unpaid amount on their shares. If the shares are fully paid up, there is no need to contribute. If 10 rupees face value share is there and the shareholder has completely paid 10 rupees, now there is no question of any contribution from the shareholders. If there is any uncalled amount on the shares, then only they have to contribute to the assets of the company, so that with the help of this money, the liquidator will make the payment to creditors, outside creditors. So call on contributories will be made if there is unpaid amount on the call and also amount is due to unsecured creditor. Unsecured creditor. अगर unsecured creditors को पूरा पे कर दिए, करने के बाद अब कॉल नहीं करें, there is no need to make the call because already the company has paid fully to unsecured creditor. If unsecured creditor को पे करने के लिए पैसे नहीं हैं, then liquidator will make a call to the shareholders. That is call on contributors. Last one, receiver for debenture holders. Normally what will happen, debentures will be secured by a floating charge on the assets of the company or fixed charge on the assets of the company. At the time of issue of debentures, the company will give some security. The company will give the security to the debenture holders that in the case of winding up, you will all have a charge on so and so assets. Suppose the building asset. Company जब debentures issue कर रही है तो debenture holders को बता दी कि these debentures will have a charge on the building. So at the time of winding up, the building has to be sold, but they will appoint a receiver. In the provisions in the debenture deed, it is given that a receiver will be appointed at the time of winding up. He will take charge of that asset which is given as security to debenture holder,